Oh, yeah. Y'all know what it is. Right here on the Remix Morning Show on Black Power Media. That's right. Y'all are at that Boom Bap Breakfast. And I go by the name of the Ear Doctor. And your host for the day is Jackie Lukeman and Kamal K. Franklin. Yeah.
What up? What up?
Back in the day.
Jackie
If
was
I met Jackie in the club. If I met Jackie in the club back in the day doing those. Just
doing
saying,
those what?
Jackie. Just
doing
saying,
those
if I
what?
met you in the club.
Doing
back
what?
in the day. Back in the day.
Doing those what?
Back in the day. Let's just talk. You know what I'm saying? Me and your girl.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
The light skin was back. The light skin was popping back in the day, girl. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I might have had a shot.
No.
What?
Oh,
Kamal, was you the type to go bag, or you was the type to sit back and see if they came to you?
No, I sat back, son, because it was just, all that. It was like all this just worked for me. You know what I'm saying?
See, those are exactly the ones I stayed away from.
I never had game. They just understood my story.
Oh, I like that. Which means you did have game. I like that.
I got that from Nas. I'm just saying.
Oh, my bad. I thought you see.
Knew it sounded familiar.
I was giving him credit because I was like, oh, that's a good one. I'm gonna have to write that down.
It was a good line. It was a good line. I made it a hot song.
What up, y'all? How y'all doing this morning? Oh no, I can't forget my greeting.
Yeah, come on.
Cannot forget my
revolutionary.
Yes, revolutionary greetings this morning to all Africans of all different shades and proclivities. See, Jared likes it. You all are just not. Y'all are like, okay.
First of all, I gotta go look.
It's all encompassing. I do like it because it's all encompassing. No one feels left out. No one feels left out.
Okay, go.
You know what proclivities means?
Go find out what proclivities means, and then you'll appreciate the greeting even more.
Hey, what do people think they're better than you when they find out you don't know something?
I think sometimes people do, but I've always. I mean, I was the kid who read the list of ingredients on the cereal box while I was eating breakfast. I would read the dictionary and the encyclopedia, so I always, yeah. And it would piss my mom off because she would be like, "What are you saying to me?"
Oh, and while y'all was reading, I was listening to music. So okay.
Yeah, I was always a big old nerd.
True.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I was in between. I read, but then I always, I wanted to be with the cool kids, like the Ear Doctor. You know what I'm saying? So I try to keep it a little, just a little. Till I think I got one report card that was just like, yo. Yeah, and I was scared my mom was going to tear my ass up, and so it was like after that.
We used to send kids like come out of the store for blunts.
You know what, B?
My report card always
try to pick you up. But go run to the store.
My report cards always had the note from the teachers. Jackie's very good student. She's very attentive. She loves to read and write, but she talks a lot. So yeah.
So you were a know-it-all, even with the teachers.
Pretty much, I was the smart ass kid. And look at this, I'm getting paid to do it. Ha ha.
I was gonna say you went into the right profession.
Yeah, I'm getting paid to be a smart ass.
Yeah.
How about that?
See, kids, you can do whatever you want. Just dream big.
Shout out to my brother Cleophas Malone III on the Remix Morning Show in the chat with the remixes this morning. What up, little brother? Hey, don't joke the name. No.
I didn't say nothing.
That's a Cleophas is a strong country name, man.
You ain't lying. Country with a K.
Don't you joke my daddy's name and my granddaddy's name.
Cleophas, Merlene. That's one of them old country names, boy.
I don't have any. Do I have any Merlene? No, I don't have any Merlines in my family. I have a Moselle. I have an Aunt Moselle.
Moselle, that's a good one.
Yes.
Wow.
I have an Uncle Junie, although his name is Roselle, but we call him Uncle Junie. Let's see, what other weirdo? I don't have any Cletuses.
My grandmother's name is Ophelia. And I feel like that was a big Southern name back in the day.
Yeah. My paternal grandmother's name was Mendoza. I have an aunt, Othelia. Yeah, I do. I have an aunt, Othelia. And my mom's name.
What about a Janie? My aunt's name was Janie. Is that kind
Janie?
of that?
No,
Janie.
My mom's name was Mamie.
Mamie, that's a big.
Mamie. Yeah,
that was a big
country, man. We country folks. We country and we proud. So there.
I got a uncle named Shirley. He actually got
How did that happen?
I don't know, but he got killed by police. Yeah. I never even got to meet him. He got beat up, killed by police back in the day in Alabama. Yep. So that's where my love for the cops come from.
Oh yeah, I can see.
I'm out on that.
Wow, Kamal.
How you feeling on this Thursday?
I'm feeling all right. It's cold. It is cold as a witch's nether parts out here up in DC. Okay. Cold. I mean, Brewski went outside and
let's go back in.
he ran outside, did his business real quick, and ran back inside like, yo, no. It's there's no dawdling for me today, mommy. Nope. Close the door.
He's like, I ain't got to sniff nothing. I just am in and out. I'm in and out.
In and out.
It's relatively speaking cold out here in Atlanta too. It's got to be like in the 40s or 30s, and I don't think it's going to get that much higher today. So
I think it might be like 20 something.
You heard about the polar cap that melted? I don't know
how many gallons?
Yeah, it was like crazy.
Like hundreds of, and it's wild because, you know, when people talk about climate change, I think that people try to make it have tried to make it, you know, really esoteric and, you know, talking about the cubits per liter or however the measurement is of the methane gas that's, you know, released into the atmosphere and the ozone and all that kind of stuff. All you have to do is look at the fact that the Arctic is melting. The Arctic is melting, and what happens when an iceberg melts and releases hundreds of thousands of gallons of water into the ocean that literally raises the sea level, and that destroys coastal communities, and it also affects the atmosphere. I mean, it's not. I wish that, you know, I respect science, but I wish that we leftists would find a better way to communicate these ideas with folks who don't pay any attention to science and you know, stop condescending to people and make it really clear about what these things mean for them. You know,
I feel like it's the gradualism of it that people just, like most of us, right? Just the gradualist nature that we put it off, we don't talk about it, or the things we do about it seems to be sort of a backdrop because, you know, we see some changes in temperature, but you know how people do, it's like, oh, it's warmer. I got no problem with that.
Right.
So it's kind of like, you know, we don't see it until the destruction happens, or like what's happening now, where it gets to be so late in the game that there either may be very little that can actually be done in terms of any kind of quick shift or change around, or it just doesn't bubble up to sort of a top level of organizing and activism. One is because we got so much going on dealing with white supremacy and racism that it's like one more thing, you know. So it's all these things that come into it, and I think it just makes it that much more difficult when, you know, when you hear stories like the ear doctor just told about something that's personal and family who gets killed by the cops or harassed or jailed, or you looking about jobs and meals and all the rest of it and education, which seems so immediate and in your face, that's kind of what happens, whether it's good or bad. So
yeah, I mean, and it's wild because, you know, since I garden and my family, you know, a bunch of country gardeners and, you know, hunters and stuff like that, like we get how how the environment affects like literally the cycle of life, right? Because if you hunt, there is a hunting season. There's a particular season where you can hunt certain animals, deer, rabbits, that kind of thing. You can always hunt squirrels. There's no hunting season for squirrels. They're always over there. But when you notice that there are either fewer deer sometimes, or the deer are more sick, or they're not coming out of the deep forest as early as they used to, like it's stuff like that people who are a little bit more connected to the earth, if you will, notice. And they may not connect it to climate change, but they know that something is off in the ecosystem, right? Like even if you garden, you're supposed to plant your seeds around May, April. But if the frost is late, if it's warmer in the winter, in the early winter, than it ever has been, then that means the winter is going to be longer, and your last frost of the season might not come until the end of April. That throws off your whole gardening season. Your crops are late, and if your crops are late, they may not do well, so you might produce less food. And so, I mean, when you're a little bit more connected to the earth, and you have been like for generations, changes like that you notice, and you know that it has like a direct impact on whether you can eat or not, and how much you can eat, right? But it is, so I mean, it's like a wild thing that some people get, that there is something off, and unfortunately, some of these people may not even look at it as climate change. They just realize that something is off with the ecosystem, with the way they rely on the earth to live. And unfortunately, I mean, let's just be real. Some of these folks, they don't believe in science anyway. So,
well, that's true. Yeah.
So
that is one thing,
really
though.
Weird, complex kind of situation, and we got to learn how to talk to people about these things.
Yeah. So, but there's one thing though. You talked about the squirrel meat, the squirrel thing. How many squirrels does it take to get a good meal? I mean, squirrels are so. I mean, how many of them things you got to kill to get like to make it taste like chicken? I don't understand.
Okay, well, look. First of all, squirrel does not taste.
Have you had squirrel?
I have had.
Have you had squirrel?
I have. Yeah, I will never eat it again. It's not. But see,
it don't taste like chicken.
No. Don't believe that lie. Every meat does not taste like. But let me tell you something. This is why country folks created gravy, because we've had to eat stuff that don't taste great. So it's like, we're hungry. We got to eat. How are we going to eat this? Oh, I know. Let's smother it with
gravy.
Let's
smother it something that tastes good, basically.
Yep. Put some onions, a little gravy on that joint. There you go. But yeah, so squirrel does not taste like. It's not terrible, but it's gamey, and it's it's a small little critter, and yeah, it's just.
Speaking of squirrels and small little critters, I think the ear doctor.
No, you did not. Oh my God!
You got me back. You got me back.
You know what I'm saying?
Hey, I remember the first time my mom made a bowl of chitlins. And every time they ate chitlins, they just put mad hot sauce on it. And I was like, And I guess that's for a lot of foods with don't got a good taste. People just smother it with salt, hot sauce, whatever.
No, but hot sauce brings out the flavor. Gravy can sometimes, it's just like smother. Okay, we got to eat this. So
that's why my mom never made chitlins. She would have, in fact, she would eat pig's feet. But she wouldn't make it for us. So it's like, I don't know, but there was some pig's feet up in there, and it was like, yuck. But she would never kind of like, it would never wind up on the dinner plate. I don't know if she was just being selfish and hoarding it, or I don't know if she was just like, I'm leaving the country behind and I'm not going to give that to them. I don't know what it was. It was pig's feet, but it was never served. I don't know, like, we eat other kinds of pork, but not the pig's feet.
Yeah, I can't get down with pig's feet or chitlins. No. Once I found out what chitlins were, I was like, right? Oh no.
I ain't gonna front. I miss that. I miss bacon and pork chops. If that was the one pork thing I could go back to,
yeah.
Man, listen. But anyway, I got a artist spotlight right about now, so let's get to it.
Remix.
Let's do it.
What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and at this time right now, I will please ask y'all to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you can know all what's going on right here. And go to patreon.com and drop some change in the bucket for Black Power Media. With that said, we have a artist spotlight today. Real quick one. I felt like I enjoyed the sister's voice, so I said, you know what? Everybody always talk about her dad, but let me talk about her. No other than Lalah Hathaway. That's right, Lalah Hathaway. Straight from the Shy. Born December 16th, 1968. She's a singer. She has over 10 albums. She does what you would say jazz, gospel, soul, R&B. She does it all. She pretty much came out in 1990 and released her first self-titled album when she was a student at Berkeley College of Music. So she's been doing it since then. She has, as you know, she is the daughter of Donny Hathaway. She hasn't put out a whole bunch of singles that will be chart topping, but I must say, if you really want to listen to some good jazz music, you could listen to her on Robert Glasper's new album. Robert Glasper, she has a couple songs on there. One with Snoop, one where she redoes the Sade classic. So this is just for you to go check out. If you haven't ever heard of Lalah Hathaway, please make sure y'all go check out her music. Real dope from the daughter of Donny. That's what it is for today. That's your artist spotlight. Now let's get back to the Remix Morning Show. All right.
Yeah. And you know what? She's got some politics. I think she's doing some political stuff. I don't want to be wrong and mess it up and say it's her when it's not, but I'm almost sure that she's working for an organization I know doing some stuff.
I could believe it. She's a big advocate for breast cancer too. So that's another thing she's pretty much on the ground running and promoting.
Yeah, I saw her. I had the privilege, honestly. I really felt like it was a privilege of seeing her for my birthday one year. Abdus took me to see Anthony Hamilton because So,
speaking of country,
we really. So I was all, and I just didn't even pay any attention to who was on the bill with him. I was just like, "Oh, you're taking me to see Anthony Hamilton," and he's like, "Yeah, girl, yeah, okay, damn." So Lalah Hathaway was opening for. Oh my God, it was amazing. She was amazing. She was so amazing, and they came out and did a duet of One Day We'll All Be Free. Woo, man, that was amazing. So she is amazing live. That voice is for real. She is great.
Yeah, and she also got a song with Eric Roberson. Real dope song. Check that out. I can't remember the name, but yeah, it's a real dope song. So that's your artist spotlight for the day. Catch y'all next break.
Peace.
I'm starting to see, Jackie, you got a type. I see. You know what I'm saying?
Huh?
Starting to see you got a type.
I do have a type. It's I don't know exactly what it is, but I know what it's not. That's weird.
Yeah, it seems to not be the light skinned man. We don't get no shots.
I see. I didn't want to come out and say it because
no, it's obvious.
I don't want to be anti light skin. It's not, it's not like a political thing. It's just, I don't know what it is. I honestly like the chocolatey, fluffy dudes. I do. I do.
You know what I'm saying? That you do you. You do you.
And the whole concert, Abdus was just like, I'm singing along to all the songs. He was just like,
He's like, you know, everyone, every single Anthony Hamilton.
But he liked giving you the best of me though, because he would always sing the part where he says good morning, here's breakfast, and he's like pretending to come in with a plate of hot pancakes. Abdus was doing that. Yeah, that was because he would. Yeah, that was just
That's a lot of information. That's good. Okay, my bad.
Yep. TMI. Okay, look, let's get to some news before things degenerate.
Slap.
Slap. Yes, indeed. We are back here with the news. The news here on the Remix Morning Show. Me, Jackie Lukeman, you, Kamau Franklin. What you got? You got any news, Kamau?
Yeah, I got what I feel is a big, building story that hit the airwaves yesterday. And I'm gonna pull it up right now. But Justice Breyer, basically, Justice Breyer is retiring from the Supreme Court. So I think this Breyer's retirement gives Democrats a dose of cautious optimism, using the New York Times. But Justice Breyer is in his 80s, one of the longest serving Supreme Court members, and he's decided to step down. There hasn't been a lot of indication around if this is health or if this is just trying to be politically savvy in their role for the Democrats to allow them to make a pick. According to sources, the Democrats are trying to do this relatively quick in terms of 30 or 45 days, similar to the last pick that the Republicans had, to get it done and get it out the way. And of course, the other big news is that because Joe Biden promised to have a Black woman as a Supreme Court pick, the pressure is already being put that, like, you better keep that promise. So there are a series of judges and one lawyer who's I think with the Legal Defense Fund, Cheryl Eiffel, if I'm not mistaken, who are being suggested as possible Supreme Court jurists. And then the last thing I'll say on it is it's liberal affair, right? I mean, this is kind of like another first potentially, and something that we're being told to get excited about. Something that if Biden had any, just from a strategic point of view, if he had any sense whatsoever, of course, he would definitely pick a Black woman. Just in terms of like the liberals are going to now go crazy in terms of first black woman, even if it means still it's a 6-3 Supreme Court, even if it means that nothing substantive policy wise is going to happen. But this is going to now be the talk of the media, at least for the next 3 or 4 months. And then the last thing I'll say on it too is, one thing I'll give credit to Breyer for is his decision to retire, because unlike the last liberal hero, Ruth Ginsburg, who the liberals love, when she was asked by the Obama administration, sort of nudged to be like, yo, girl, you're getting pretty up there. This election might be close. What do you think about such and such and such? She was like, hell to the nah. Even if she had cancer, she was already sick a few times. She refused to retire, and subsequently, of course, passed away in office, and allowed Trump to make an additional pick that he maybe would not have had. And then lastly, and even though there are things about the Supreme Court, of course, about the whole electoral system, which is just kind of like it does what it does. Of course, there still are important things that the Supreme Court makes decisions on, i.e. Roe v. Wade, i.e. another story I'm going to talk about, Citizens United, that definitely have large-scale impact, obviously, on people's day-to-day lives. So As much as whatever I think about the system, I do think that the idea of what can happen based on who's in there can matter in that respect.
Yeah, I mean, this whole Supreme Court justice thing, it has always been like, to me, such a scam. I mean, first of all, you're talking about people who are not elected. They are selected by whatever president wants to have them on the Supreme Court, deciding on the rule of law for this country for 350 some odd million people, give or take a few each year. We don't get a say and input into who they are. We don't, and people make the argument that, well, you do get a say in who gets elected for the Supreme Court by who you vote for as president. That's not good enough for me. That's really, because when I think back to Bill Clinton's presidency, and he had the opportunity to appoint Lonnie Guinier to the Supreme Court. Remember her? And he backed off of that because the Republicans didn't like her because she was too black. She was black. She was, she was, and I'm sure she had some questionable positions, just like all, political kind of folks were. But she was, at the time, from what I can remember, an advocate for a lot of social change in regard to the way the Constitution is interpreted for modern times. So Clinton, in typical, slick Willie fashion, made a big deal about, hey, this is my, groundbreaking pick for the Supreme Court. And the Republicans and the racists lost their minds. And he was like, okay, well, maybe not her, and then completely backed off that. So it's like, okay, we vote for a president. And at the time I did vote for Bill Clinton. We vote for a president supposedly to secure a decent Supreme Court pick, but then the president doesn't have a spine and actually back people, that he's going to appoint who actually will help people. And then, like you mentioned, Kamau, I mean, there's a Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And, so this Supreme Court pick, it's not going to make any difference, really, not in the near term. I guess probably not for the next 10 years, because it's not going to change the conservative leaning of the court. It's not going to change the rulings. And we have to remember that unlike Guinier, who did have a very different, more radical-ish interpretation of the law, these Supreme Court picks are educated by very conservative, very white supremacist, very patriarchal legal institutions, the Harvards, the Yales, that type of thing. So they don't have an interpretation of the Constitution that's anything but conservative. So even if you have a so-called liberal president or a not conservative president appointing a Supreme Court justice, you're still going to get a conservative interpretation of the Constitution from these people.
I think it's the, liberal in this sense means status quo, basically.
Right.
Right. So for these folks, you're right. It's just like, how do we just keep it churning and burning? This the right-wing Republicans who want to drag us all the way back to the original interpretation of the Supreme Court. And that literally sometimes just means corporations, at least in their estimation, corporations have all the power in the world. State rights rule, a lack of a federal policy, and anything that challenges what they consider to be free market capitalism is something that needs to be struck down, or so forth and so on. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Not only just, even if there is a liberal majority, there are obviously going to be certain things that get to stand, which again, I think has, within the system that we're in, has some level of importance, but it's not a groundbreaking. It's not something that's going to shift sort of the level of power. It's not going to shift poverty numbers. It's not going to shift power relations. None of that's going to happen. But again, I think part of the sort of political zeitgeist and atmosphere right now is just going to be day after day after day now. Again, for Biden, thinking about the political electoral consequences, is Biden, who is doing, who's obviously doing terrible in the polls. For him, it's an opportunity once again to shore up that base of Black folks, and in particular Black women, by appointing a Black woman. So it doesn't matter again if the policies or are right. The representation is it's going to be this big play, and Black Democrats in particular are going to take the lead, not only in holding Biden's feet to the fire to do it, but in telling the rest of us how important it is that it happens. And it's just, to me, part of it is like, is this strange that we're in 2022 and we've had like 50 to 60 years of Black first, and this still is an important element of the politics that's kicked to us around being included, when it's like we've had all these Black firsts from Obama down, and again the shift in power relations has not changed, right? It's still liberal elites and conservatives who are battling out amongst themselves the contradictions amongst power, amongst capital, like that those nuances take place, and whether or not again anything sort of comes dribbling down to us is something else. But electing these folks doesn't give any major shift of power, because the elections are not meant to do that. They're meant to bias into a system which is controlled by a certain type of people, a certain kind of wealthy folks, and everybody else does their bidding.
Right. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I think I was wrong about Lonnie Guinier. It wasn't the Supreme Court.
Guinier was an appointment at the Justice Department.
So what was it? Oh, it was the department. That's right, the Justice Department. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, see, it's that middle age. And
I just thought maybe it was another time I didn't remember, so that's why.
No, it's middle-aged and squirrel meat, man. That'll do it.
It's got to be that squirrel meat. So let me do another quick story just on this same area of who controls everything, and then the role of what the Supreme Court is in making sure that folks with money continue to rule the country. So we are now in. Since the Citizens United case, which basically said corporations were individuals and needed to be, persons and needed to be treated as such, and could give unlimited amounts of money to electoral races. It says, since Citizens United, billionaires are spending nearly $1 billion more on elections. And so it goes on, it's like, says, 12 years ago, they've increased their donations from 31 million total in the 2010 cycle to a whopping $1.2 billion in 2020 election cycle, or about 39 times more than they did prior to that. And so what's important about that story, I just think it was a good sort of quick tag along to what's happening in the Supreme Court. Is, again, the question is always how to open up space for billionaires to gain even more control, or corporations to gain even more control of the political apparatus. And the Supreme Court serves that function. And as I think we talked about the other day, it's not like Biden is going to expand the court to allow more. He's too scared to do that. He's too scared to even fight for that. So that's not happening. Obviously, he's not going to do anything about the filibuster because he's too scared to do anything about that. He's not going to put the moderates in line because I basically think he agrees with them. So, but nominally he's too scared to do that. So, it's a status quo and a continual bleeding of what are the areas of the country that the rich don't control yet. And so that's it's like, oh, that hasn't been privatized yet. Let's go privatize that. Let's go give them more power here. And that's the basic function of our government. And you do have a couple of people who may fight on a progressive angle to do certain things, but usually either they're limited in ideology and thought, and or their practice is screwed, and or they're beaten back in line by the stick of not having the appointments that they want, or having the larger democratic machine come after them for getting out of line and sounding too left at particular times.
And real quick, Kamal, I mean, when you said expand the Supreme Court, I mean, I think people don't realize that we don't, there's nothing in the Constitution that says there has to be 9 justices on the Supreme Court. There can be 13. There can be 52 if you know, if anybody so desired to expand the court to that many. There could be 5. You know, that and it's just knowing that this is true. I think the fact that what you said about Biden, you know, just being a punk and not being too scared to do that, when, you know, he could appoint all the justices he wants to change the makeup of the Supreme Court. He won't do it.
I mean, and for Biden in particular, part of it is tradition, isn't it? Like, you know, again, Biden comes from a generation where he stands up and tells you he was proud to work with segregationists.
Right.
You know, he's proud to, yes, those are his people. For him, it's all about safeguarding, as they see it, the American institutions. All this other conversation about defunding police or all that stuff, that is still foreign to him, obviously even at this age, right? I mean, his first description of Obama when he was about to be appointed was that he's a clean, articulate, so we're talking about a people who like, and they see any, I mean, I was reading some other stories, some opinion pieces, and they continually talk about how America is breaking up and all that kind of stuff. And anytime it feels like they see this disgruntledness or whatever, they hark back to the good old days when America was a so-called democracy, or the both sides of the aisle could get together. And, you know, and it's usually like these old white guys who are doing it, not exclusively, but it's usually them. And you're like, are you harking back to the time when Black folks really couldn't vote? You know, the little bit of opening that's been created is that's the golden era for you, because white folks got along in the Capitol more and were more collegiate and kind to each other, because they all agreed on the big issue of the day, which was these niggas can't vote. They're not part of our democracy.
Right. They don't have no rights.
They got no rights. We all agree with that. Right?
We like that.
We good with that, right? So there might be other things that we can fight over, but that huge thing that this was a white person's country was never in doubt for them. And so that's the times that they're harking back to the 50s, the 40s, the 30s, the 20s, when America, you know, held it together and worked together. It's like, oh, you mean when our people were overtly oppressed by both, you know, de jure and I'm forgetting the other legal term for it, but you know, both legally.
Oh, de facto.
And de facto. Thank you so much.
Look at me. Look at you.
That's right. Thank you so much. Like that's when those times when it was obvious that they could get away with it. Those are the times that you're harking back to solidify the glory days of America. And it's just crazy that that's what they think is. I mean, not crazy. It's crazy for me that that's what they think is democracy, the heyday of democracy. So, you know, so that, I mean, that's the world we live in even today. They would just rather we all shut the hell up and let them rule, and not, and I, you know, that's the preference, on both sides of the aisle. So,
I saw a question real quick in the chat. I think you said something about competitors versus comrades. What did you mean?
Oh, I someone's getting on another topic of this, the organizing world. So I guess I did a tweet and it was about the organizing world. And it's just that I get the feeling in the organizing world that, particularly in the American organizing world, that organizers, so-called activists, seem to be far more in competition with each other than they are in trying to be comrades and working together. And some of that, I think, are some of the obvious reasons of the money pool. That's and again, I don't think it's obviously by no means brand new, right? This is historically something that's always happened within movement building. It's not even particular, obviously, to the U.S. I just think it's done in a certain way in the U.S. But you know, going back to fights between and some of these fights should happen, as in there are different politics. But a lot of these fights are happening over both politics and ego and popularity, and try to be the person on top. So, going back to Du Bois in Washington, or Du Bois and Garvey, going back to obviously the 60s and the phrase that happened all across the board. Again, some of those are ideological battles. But these days, I would say post the late 60s, we're in a sort of supersonic stage where, we've had the Jesse Jacksons and to the Al Sharptons, but even they, in terms of the money that they got from their corporate sponsors and some of the things that they got by getting to be on media, pale in comparison to some of the money being thrown at organizations these days, who again say that they're left, but when the opportunities come up to demonstrate that, they seem to demonstrate that they're only interested in doing policy work themselves. So those same organizations that have people who I used to organize with, or we used to organize with, who were anti the Jesse Jacksons and the Al Sharptons for their type of politics, are engaging in those same politics today, but they seem to be okay with it because maybe it's a Black woman doing it, or maybe it's LGBTQ folks who are doing it. But the representation politics still hold. And again, some of those same organizations will now, speaking of the Supreme Court pick, will go into hyper gear around how important it is to get a Black woman on the Supreme Court, even though, again, that becomes representation politics, as opposed to politics based around ideas and ideological beliefs and what's going to push forward a movement, as opposed to what's going to reinforce the status quo.
Yeah, I mean, and this whole representational politics thing, I mean, it's wild how, and I realize that this is very much a problem that we have in the movement when we're talking about class issues, because we don't talk about class issues enough. Because these Black faces in these high judicial places, they lock our kids up just as much, if not more, than the white folks do, because they're trying to prove that, see, I'm hard on our people too, because we can do, so this just, I'm not at all excited about, Joe Biden possibly picking a Black woman to be on the Supreme Court, because I don't trust anybody that he would choose who is Black to not be a class traitor of our people. I just do not. So that's
No, you're right. I mean, the other, when you scan the most progressive cities across the country, they usually are the whitest cities.
Right.
Because when white folks get together, sometimes outside the South, usually they will think of novel ways to distribute resources to a greater share of their people. They will think about ways to build affordable housing or cultural ideas and centers. And again, they don't mind if there's a few Black folks sprinkled in, but they usually are the whitest cities, right? When you think about our Black cities, they are still Black cities, as in the representation is Black. They do not lean on progressive or radical or left ideas to make changes. They stick with the status quo. In fact, they get so tied into the local white moneyed interests that they do the bidding of the moneyed white class at the expense of our communities. And so usually it's in our Black communities that have Black cops or Black police chiefs, Black mayors, Black city councils, where the arrest rates are high, the jail rates are high, the prison rates are high, the sentencing by Black judges is just as harsh, with the whole finger waving and conservative ethos about bootstrap politics. Those things don't change, because these Black politicians do not look for, even the ones who say they do. Like I challenge again folks like Antar Lumumba in Jackson, Mississippi, who claims that Jackson's going to be the most radical city, to actually put some radical policies in place, right? Ras Baraka put some radical policies in place. Don't just be a liberal politician, because then I could have voted for anybody, right? Didn't matter, right? De Blasio, if you're not left even of a De Blasio in New York, then you're not doing nothing for me, right?
Yeah, definitely. And you know what? Speaking of progressive policies, there is this story out of New Orleans that I think is really fascinating in kind of proving that the socialisms is good for people. Um, this is being reported out of NOLA.com, and they tracked this study where when New Orleans moms in poverty got an extra $333 a month, their children benefited. No shit. So in 2019, a bunch of folks knocked on some doors, the good-hearted researchers knocked on some doors in two New Orleans hospitals to give new moms $333 a month, no strings attached, for the first 4 years and 4 months of their new babies' lives. So these researchers went to the maternity wards, found some, moms who were in poverty who had just given birth, asked them to participate in this study for, what would this extra money do to improve their lives and their babies' lives, what impact it would have on them and their children. So the program, the study is called Baby's First Years, and it's a research study conducted by 6 universities to measure how poverty affects kids' brains among a group of 1,000 moms and their babies living in poverty in New York City, New Orleans, Omaha, and Minneapolis, St. Paul. So these are the details of the study. So early results from the study showed that the extra money helped to facilitate subtle changes in a child's brain. And this is how they kind of track the changes in the kid's brain. After 1 year, scientists started to do EEGs and other kinds of tests on the children to measure, the whatever it is that, the brain activity of these kids who are in poverty, but who have this extra help. And even though they say the results were mixed, they note that past studies have shown that children in poverty or with other early trauma, because living in poverty is traumatic, often have fewer high frequency waves. And it had been difficult to prove that poverty itself caused the disparity in the brain development, or whether issues associated with poverty, like living in unsafe neighborhoods and that kind of thing, caused the disparities in brain activity. So this study was trying to measure what they couldn't measure in the past. So they found that the differences were small, but that the differences in the children's brains were enough so that they think it would make a difference in how these children interact, or how they would do better in after education interventions if they had that help. So this extra money improved the brain function of children living in poverty so much that scientists believe that it would improve their ability to function better in life if they had additional resources that they wouldn't have otherwise because they are poor. I hope that makes sense. Dr. Ann Tilton, chief of child neurology at LSU Health New Orleans School of Medicine, said that the results are pretty compelling. If you could invest like this and make a measurable difference in some people, what a difference for all of us. And there's some other really great information in this article. But really, I think what this points to is the argument that we socialists make all the time, that socialism, when you provide for the basic needs of everyone, when you ensure that people have enough food to eat, they have affordable housing, that they have health care, when you provide for people's basic needs, their brains do not have to be burdened with the stress of worrying about how they're going to survive. And this study of just $333 a month for this small group of people produced the kind of significant results in the children's brains that basically proves the socialist thesis that socialism literally saves people's lives. It makes people's lives better. Providing for the basic needs of people makes people live better, helps people live better lives. And it's interesting that lobbyists, these corporations, could spend an additional $1 billion to get politicians to pass laws that are beneficial to them, that deprive people of a living wage, which deprives people of the ability to afford quality housing, which deprives people of the ability to have health care, which deprives people of the ability to live in safe neighborhoods, which deprives their children of a decent quality of life. If they took that $1 billion and provided all of those things for people, we'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
We'd
No,
be
I mean,
all right.
that's exactly right. I mean, so part of it is like, I had to do this study to find that out.
And that's the other thing.
It's like, when they do studies, like, there's racism in America. It's like, word. There's like, they do the housing discrimination studies where they put the white family in, and then they bring in the black family, or they bring in the family with the black name, and they show the discrepancies. And it's like, word, you had to do all that. Like, so again, obviously it's good to have facts to back up the things that people kind of know. But of course, more resources alleviates not only poverty, but the pains, angst, mental and physical issues that come from being impoverished. Like, so it's they know that already. But again, as you were saying, the benefits of keeping a poor working class, as excess labor or as labor that continually needs to come back, right? So you can make enough, but we know you got to come back to this job because you still need to make more. We're not going to give you enough to be like, you don't got to come back all the time, that kind of thing. And then, they've done these experiments in different places, and the results are similar all over the place, right? That when you provide more resource, and just providing the resources, not dictating how the resources are spent, not trying to put some overseer over the money and what should happen with it. But families will more often than not make the right decisions around how their families will need to spend the money in order to improve their lives. It's just about having the extra resources. And instead of like making those folks feel bad or marginal, or they're living off the government dole, like, give people the resources, the people who've helped create the resources in the first place. And they know those are the solutions, but they decide not to implement those solutions because they get something from keeping us poor and working class. And as long as they are in charge of how that works and how that happens, we'll continue just to have these marginal efforts that shows this stuff, but no grand policy that lifts people out of poverty.
Exactly. And the point that they made a couple of other points in the article, and I shared the article with you all because I think it's really, really interesting information. They pointed to the fact that, that extra $333 a month was not enough to provide to help any of these people move to a better, environment. It couldn't help them, even for people who are working two low wage jobs. That extra $333 a month was not enough to help them move to a better place because that money didn't keep up with that rising cost of housing. And this was in New Orleans alone, where I didn't realize that like TANF practically doesn't exist. Like I did not know that. And that's a damn crime because, I mean, New Orleans the poverty in New Orleans is crazy. So, I mean, then they point to the fact that even though this additional money, this additional $333 a month for this small group of people did improve just the brain function of their children, in a significant way, it didn't improve the living conditions that these folks still had to live around because that money wasn't enough to really change their environment, and that money wasn't provided to everybody else. in their environment. So yeah, I just thought it was a really another compelling argument for why socialism works and how it works. So but speaking of working, is the ear doctor working in the barbershop again? Is he hawking?
He's getting another haircut? That's why he hair.
He ain't got no hair.
Yo, come on, man. Let me just get a shot, man. It's my first day. I know. I'm moonlighting right now, or daylighting. You know what I'm saying? Hey, yo, what's good, everybody? I'm out here getting money, hustling. You know what it is.
Doing your thing.
We in the barbershop.
Bootleg CDs again.
Hey, listen, nope. We kicked him out because he had a bunch of CDs that was blank. He's trying to sell them. So we got him up out of here. But I wanted to give some real quick shout out and send our energy to the good sister Regina King, who had her son commit suicide. Just want to send out some healing energy to her. I know she's going through it. She really loved her son, so that's what it is.
Definitely.
But real quick, we're gonna talk that talk. I'm doing the top 5 or something. So stick around, y'all. You already know.
Okay.
I'm gonna even tell y'all. I'm gonna do top 5. We in here talking. We said who from the 70s till now, every decade was the male king of R&B.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah, here we go.
Let's do
get it. Right here in the Remix Morning Show, baby. Let's go.
Remix.
All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to the Remix Morning Show. I go by the name of the Ear Doctor, and you can see me daylighting right now, getting my other thing on. We in here talking in the barbershop, and the topic came up like, yo, who's the king of R&B? From the 70s to the 80s to the 90s, 2000s. And this is what we was talking about. And I told him mine, because we always got our opinions here at the barbershop about who's what. So let me start off with mine real quick. All right, so I'm starting off in the 70s. It has to be no other than my man Marvin Gaye, who came out with over 25 studio albums and just held it down for the 70s. And then from the 70s, we take it to the 80s. Who was holding it down in the 80s for R&B? No other than my boy Luther Vandross, who came out with over 13 albums. Yes, 13 albums. Luther was holding it down for the 80s. Next, we're going to go to the 90s. You might not want to see him. You might not like him. But yeah, R. Kelly was holding down the R&B for the 90s, did a whole lot of writing, had 18 studio albums and a whole lot of singles, over like 160. Crazy. Next, we're going to go to the 2000s, and we're going to go to no other than Usher. That's right. Usher, we're going to give him, he has 8 studio albums. So I'm going to give him that 2000 slot. And then in the 2010 slot, I'm going to go to Chris Breezy. That's right, Chris Brown, who has over 9 studio albums. And you know what? It was kind of a tie for him because I want to say Chris did it, but also Drake. Yes, he is a hip hop artist, but this dude sings on every album and has chart topping R&B tracks. So he has 6 albums also. So that's my picks for the R&B over the last 5 decades. So that's what it is right here at the barbershop. Talk that talk. What's your thoughts?
Look, you've had some pretty bad picks. You've had some pretty bad picks over the years. This is one of your worst lists ever. One, you're mixing R&B and soul. So stick to a category, son. Stick to a category.
Okay, who had it in the 70s for R&B?
No, you're right. It's either Marvin or Stevie.
That you did not have Stevie.
You have Stevie on your list at all, son. You gave an honorable mention for Drake, the fake hip hop artist.
Come on, we going down the decades now. We talking decades.
During
the 70s, your man, he was known. He was the man when it came to R&B. Marvin Gaye more than Stevie was. The R&B.
Again, I think you're mixing your categories of soul and R&B because it's later on. Did I say later on enough? Later on. I don't see how you got I'm not even talking about the fact that he's a child molester, rapist, abuser, all of that. But R. Kelly is not in the same category. R. Kelly, who is a rapist, child molester, abuser, and all of that, is not in the same category, musically speaking, as a Marvin. So he shouldn't even be on that list.
What?
How do you go from Chris Brown is not the logical inheritor of a Marvin Gaye? This is impossible.
Well,
and Drake,
we talking decades. They ain't even tied, but we talking about decades.
Did I mention
who's
that
doing it on an R&B tip like these guys are?
Did I mention that R. Kelly was a rapist?
Yes. We talking music. We talking music.
I didn't know if I mentioned it though. I didn't know.
No, Maxwell. I mean, I would have bought Maxwell.
Maxwell. This dude got like 2 albums. Are you serious? Nah. He was a piece of the decade.
How was Drake on a
Drake?
top 5 R&B?
I said Chris Brown. I'm just saying as in putting out R&B sounding music.
Why'd you mention his name? All right,
you know what? I'm done with y'all. We got Warrior Class coming up. Y'all got your own opinions, and that's what it is. I'm gonna stick with mine. So,
we need Warrior some Class. Warrior Class. Going at Barbara.
Greetings, peace. I want to send a shout out to Baba Balagoon. He's not here with us today, so you're gonna have your Warrior Class segment with me, Ogunbile, and I want to request a little picture of me looking cool like Baba looked with the little picture that come on in the beginning. I think I want one of those too. And I also want to say, why I never hear any real male voices on the radio no more. I was just talking about that. Everybody sound like kids. I can't be with no woman with somebody that's sound like a teenager. It just don't feel right. So I'm always listening to old school. I want to say, I don't know, as a group, Jodeci's need to be somewhere. But anyway, that's another story. We ain't gonna get into that right now. And so Chris Brown a little too young. So look, today what we're gonna be talking about is Baba mentioned sometimes the great equalizer. Usually, and that's we talk about the knife being a great equalizer with somebody, more trained than you, bigger than you, or whatever. That knife is a great equalizer. But there's another equalizer that we use, not a tool. It's called the lion's mouth. So that's what I'm gonna show you guys today. I manifesto. I'm here with Cody Whiteman, and we're gonna demonstrate today what that is. So I'm gonna turn a little bit so you guys can see how this looks. So the lion's mouth is simply this right here. That right there. We extend the index and the thumb. You're not hitting with your fingers. You can't see right there, but it's a straight, just like that. That's what the lion's mouth is. And usually we're going to the throat section. You got 2 carotid arteries going down right here. So that's what we want to strike right there. Belay top 5, please. I got you. So the way we do this and set this up, I don't know what's the best angle for me to show. I guess I'll turn in a little bit. There we go. So you see that throat area. So let's just say for some reason you discussing your top 5 and somebody get mad at it and they swing off on you a couple times. So we already know the covers, you know what I'm saying, that you use. Covers being, I'll show you one time. This is a cover right here. This is a cover. This is not a cover. It's a very poor something. I don't know that, but this is a cover. You want to marry this to your face just like that. And the reason you don't want to be like that, because a big punch comes through and it hits you, you knock yourself out like that. So you want to marry this to your face. And these are also bones. You can use these. These are also, every strike is an attack. Every block is a strike. Every strike is a block. So this, although it is a block, it's also a strike as you get closer with those. So those are covers. So you want to use those. I'm discussing the top 5, and I say Chris Brown, and he swing off on me. I cover, lion mouth, just like that. The lion mouth straight to the throat. It might come to the side a little bit, but that's what that is. A lot of damage that's going to gonna stop somebody in their tracks. You could either use it. They may try to choke you or something. You may talk about the top 5. They may try to strangle you or something. It still works. That lion mouth will get them off of you, just like that. Don't forget those covers when those blows are come in. Lion mouth. It's good to have a good base when you're doing that. It's good to have a real good base when you're doing that. So again, show you lion mouth. Hands are together, fingers are together. You don't want to have your hands spread out like that. You might be nervous. You might miss. No. I'm not on ear doctors. Now, I think it's a cool list. I think it's a cool list. Music is debatable, and everybody think the aficionado, everybody think their opinion is fact. I think it was a pretty cool list. You know what I'm saying? I just don't get down with the young boy. But anyway, fingers together like this. You're using this area is where you're going at. That right there. Hand spread, finger spread, you might do some damage to yourself. You don't want a limp hand. You want your hand like that trying to do it. We call that weak bone. Something I've never been. You can ask Bob about that. But straight, just like that. If you're not coming from the front, if you side angle, that's fine like that. You covering. Once again, cover, lion mouth. Cover, lion mouth, just like that. And real simple, but very effective. And if you're training this with a partner, if you don't have a Cody Whiteman like I do, then you get with your partner, and instead of putting it on their neck, you place it right there on the chest. So it'll be right there. That's not the neck. It look like it, but that's not the neck. But you want to be close to it when you're doing this with a partner. It'd be dangerous to really train this and hit the neck like that a few times. You'll see if that happens. So just place it on the chest. That's the easiest way to train this with your partner to make sure everybody's safe and nobody actually gets hurt in the process. So very short, very sweet. I don't like to say too much without Baba right here. That's my so no, but any questions about that, he's in the chat. You can ask, and we'll get those answered very promptly. So thank you very much for joining Belay's Warriors class today. And again, can I get the cool picture? Can I get the cool picture? You know what I'm saying? And ear doctor, can you do something about the radio, man? Get some men sounding voices on the radio, man. I miss them. I miss the men sounding. All right. Y'all be safe. I'm gonna say peace.
As soon as somebody mentioned R. Kelly, right in the chest, pow pow. Yep. As soon as Chris Brown come out their mouth, Chris Brown is a pow pow, right in the throat.
In the throat. In the throat. In the throat. I agree with that. The chat is going. I mean, the chat is going. Wow, people about that list, that bad list the ear doctor created. You know what I'm saying? But then, the one thing they all agree upon is that the ladies love Belay. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying that my man getting a lot of, he always.
I mean, we got to get the people what they want.
I'm gonna have to get me a picture too. I'm gonna have to get a better one. You know what I'm saying?
You cannot. You cannot have it. No.
Right. Sorry. No. So what we got? We got some more news.
Yeah, I actually have. I'm gonna start some trouble because that's what
we do. That's how we do.
It's what we do. Listen, I want to preface this by saying that Jared Ball did not ask me to talk about this. But I was scanning the news outlets yesterday and came across this story. Crypto collapse erases more than $1 trillion in wealth, forcing a reckoning for everyday investors. Now, look, let me start off by saying this. I I do not begrudge anyone who invests in crypto or anything else for their personal enrichment. Do you? I mean, that's cool. I think that's fine. You make your, you know, your extra cheddar however you know, and if you can for yourself make some investments and make some money, okay, fine. But the idea that any investment in this capitalist system, any investment at all, is going to fuel the revolution or is the revolution. The idea that any financial system in this current capitalist system is going to be the revolution, especially for working class and poor people, that's crazy talk. And this is why. By the end of the last year, they focused the beginning of this story on one guy who had a pretty nice cryptocurrency investment portfolio. His crypto investments last year, by the end of last year, were about $250,000. He moved to a nice apartment, bought a new truck, you know, started thinking about quitting his day job and you know, going to doing his dream job. But over the past 2 months, all of his little nest egg disappeared. And, you know, so now he's talking about, I'm not sure if I'm comfortable because I don't know if I can keep all my money. Right. So, and this is because over the past couple of months, the value of cryptocurrencies, all of them plummeted and erased like literally $1.3 trillion in value globally. Over half of the total cryptocurrency market gone. And then this is the problem with any investment, and whether it's cryptocurrency, whether it's the stock market, whether it's what they call blue chip stocks, you know, those stocks that are supposed to be tried and true and guaranteed to produce some type of, you know, they're supposed to be safe. We're talking about a market that is volatile, that is affected by a whole bunch of factors that have nothing to do with you, that you can't control. So the value of your investments do fluctuate. So there is no guarantee that you're going to get a return on your investment that you want. And there's no guarantee that you're going to maintain the value of the return on your investment. And they show a little, you know, chart on the fluctuation or the devaluation in the cryptocurrency, the two top cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin and Ethereum. So they say that the slide has accelerated over the past week now, as investors pretty much sold their shares in crypto, and you know, which are risky, for safer investments. So they left the crypto market and went to the regular, either more stable cryptocurrencies, or they went to the regular stock market investments. And what has this done? This, of course, has drawn the attention once again of regulators in Washington to find a way to regulate the cryptocurrency market. They've been doing this for a while. They've been trying to figure out, how do we regulate the cryptocurrency market? Celebrities, of course, have gotten in on this. You've seen the commercials, I'm sure, of some celebrities hawking cryptocurrency. LA Rams wide receiver Odell Beckham announced in November that he is converting $750,000 of his pay into Bitcoin as a part of his agreement to do advertisements for Cash App. But the interesting thing is that if he converted that amount of money in cryptocurrency, then it would be worth about $35,000 now. So if he had just kept his $750,000, I mean, he would have had his $750,000. But if he did indeed invest that amount of money into Bitcoin, he would only have $35,000 right now.
No, I'm so go ahead, finish. You finish.
No, so this is a part of this that just kind of blew my mind. 44% of people who have bought and traded crypto in the past year are non-white, and 35%, I know, Brewski, that's bullshit, and 35% have annual household incomes below $60,000. I think that's mad. I think that's wild, because people's portfolios in cryptocurrency have shrunk by like 40% in 7 days. And here's the other part of this crypto thing that is really messy. Aside from the serious, environmental impact, negative impact it has, aside from the volatility of the market, just the fact that Puerto Rico, a still a colony of the United States, still exploited by the United States. The government of Puerto Rico, for some reason, has allowed crypto investments to have some type of tax breaks. So the rich crypto owners are taking their crypto money and going to Puerto Rico and buying land in Puerto Rico with their crypto money because of the huge tax breaks they get, while the citizens of Puerto Rico are being asked out by neoliberal policies that are dictated by the United States government. Folks are taking their crypto money and buying up property in Puerto Rico to no benefit of the Boricuans on the island at all. So, I mean, look, like I said, if people want to, make some additional money for themselves on their crypto investments, full disclosure, I have a Coinbase account. Me and Abdus were just playing around. I was like, well, let's see what happens. And okay, yeah, but see, to buy an entire Bitcoin, you have to have like $37,000 to buy an entire Bitcoin, and then you will start to see some real returns, right? To buy an entire Ethereum coin, you have to have like $5,000, and then you can see some serious returns. But this argument that you can buy a portion of a crypto coin, I mean, that doesn't mean a whole lot when you can buy 1/10 of a Bitcoin with your $100 or $50 or whatever. That, yeah, you're going to make a little piece of change, but that's all it's going to be. That cryptocurrency is not going to fuel the revolution, especially when cryptocurrency does cause serious environmental damage, and cryptocurrency is a major factor in the exploitation of another group of exploited people. So, I just thought that was a really interesting development in the ongoing crypto debate.
Yeah, I mean, I'm almost expecting, Dr. Ball to pop up. Jared would be like, I know he's got his class going on now. That's why he could make it this week. But it was like, you never know. But the crypto, he might just pop up. But, once the item about Puerto Rico, that's another aspect of disaster capitalism is what happens in things like that. Like, there's other bigger parts of it, but that's a really important way in which, the economy, the local economy is depressed, right? And this is what's been happening in Puerto Rico over the last few decades, is that the governing system in Puerto Rico will create some tax break, which will have an influx of resources that come in. And then, another administration, or for some other reason, Congress or somebody else will close that gap or that opening. And that's one of the reasons why the economy of Puerto Rico fell flat, because these are just small ploys around where we're going to shift money for the rich and who's going to take advantage of getting money from the rich in their locality. But as you said, again, these places think that somehow is improving their overall economy, but it does nothing for the poor. And now when Puerto Rico is suffering still from the after effects of the hurricane and so forth, and a lot of people have moved from Puerto Rico, a lot of Puerto Ricans have moved from Puerto Rico to the quote unquote mainland, right? What's happened is that it's opened up for these investors to really take over Puerto Rico. It's almost like, it's another semblance of what's happened over the decades in Hawaii, where what's going to happen in Puerto Rico is that there's not going to be any more Puerto Ricans. So it's going to be gringos who come in, buy the land, buy the resources, turn it into a resort, a bigger resort, beach resort than what it is, these corporations are going to come in and it's going to just totally flip the economy and flip the scale. And a lot of this is happening for different reasons, from the sort of the Geechee Islands and all the places in the South, like those places that Black folks took some pride in. We controlled the land, we controlled those resources. But what actually happened was now, because the ownership wasn't as complete as people thought, or people sold their shares or things like that, that now these resorts are coming in and taking over those areas. That's just like one small. I mean, on a larger crypto thing, it's a marketing scheme, right? So there may be some, like you said, it's a volatile market. You're taking risks, but it's basically a marketing scheme that's produced the numbers that you've talked about around why so many folks of color are investing. And even if they're investing percentage-wise, takes up a lot of space. Money-wise, around what they're owning, as it always, is very small, right? Very small. And so, again, when someone poor and working class loses a certain amount of money, they don't get to recover like rich people. So they're losing a lot. So that's you know, so that crypto stuff, I agree with you. It's a marketing scheme. If you want to put your money in, put it in. But just please don't continue to tell us that somehow this is benefiting us as a people, and or it's the road to liberation, because that's where the foolishness starts in.
Right. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, look, I have a 401k. I have, investments in the 401k and the stock market. I try to make sure that, my little investments aren't, invested in defense contracts and, shitty environmental stuff and fossil fuels and that kind of thing. And, my little piece of change when I finally decide to stop running my mouth for a living, which will probably be never. But, that little piece of change will come in handy for me. You understand? I cannot pay anybody else's. I might be able to pay a couple of people's bills, cell phone bills, maybe for a little while with that little piece of change, but that money is not the revolution. I mean, the crypto market is already captured by a small group of very wealthy people who have in their own portfolios 80% of the value of the market. So the crypto market is looking exactly like the stock market.
Jackie might have gone out on us, but basically what she was saying is those folks who have their own portfolios control the vast majority of the market. And if they control the vast majority of the market, then they are the ones who not only set the prices, but when these downfalls happen, they know to get out a little ahead of schedule, right? Because of the insider information, and to go reinvest back in the standard Wall Street market. And then they'll come back in crypto after they've done another round of marketing to tell you about what a great investment it is. And then the prices are raised again. They'll take their money out and you'll be left holding the bag.
Yep. I didn't realize my audio or video went out. But I mean, again, look, if people are able to make a little piece of change, good for you. But just like you said, Kamal, this ain't the revolution for all of us, because most, and when I talk about these things, I'm not talking about people like me who can afford to invest $50, $100 a month, right? Because I have that little extra money that's just sitting off to the side. I'm always talking about those of us, the working class and the poor, who are having to decide, working 2-3 low-wage jobs, having to decide whether they are going to buy food for this week or whether they're going to put that money aside for rent. Those are the people I'm talking about. I don't care about the folks who have that little extra fund. Fine, you have a little extra money to play around in the stock market, in the crypto market, do you? But I'm talking about the people who can barely afford to eat and house and clothe themselves. Crypto is not going to save those people, because y'all ain't giving your crypto money to those people. Come on now.
So speaking of people who can barely afford to feed and clothe and house themselves.
Oh my God.
We got the ear doctor. Bam, 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 bam. Bam, 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 bam. I understand it was my internet. We might have had a problem with. My bad, y'all.
What? Is he selling the sneakers
I was
now?
saying, this is my crypto bank right here, the shoebox.
He got his extra cheddar in his shoebox.
Hey, I'm wiping off the tomato juice from all the tomatoes people was throwing at me on my list. Anyway, I'm gonna
That's
take
like
you.
You didn't have Michael Jackson
on
your list. You didn't have Michael Jackson as the king of any R&B era. That's why I pointed that out.
Yeah, well.
He said, yeah, well.
I mean, when we talk about dance music, he was definitely the king of that. I don't look at Luther Vandross and be like, "Oh, he's a king." Come on. Anyway, we talking R&B singing.
Okay. All right.
So with that said, I'm gonna take y'all to a Black Power Media flashback. I'm gonna do it like this, y'all. All right. What's good, everybody? Welcome out once again to Black Power Media. Make sure y'all hit that like, subscribe button, and all them tings. And at this time right now, I'm gonna take y'all to a quick flashback of a sister that came on the Renegade Culture show and did a performance. And she goes by the name of Lioness. So let's go back. And if you want to check this one out, this was the sports apartheid, plantation politics and accountability. So yeah, that's that. Now let me take you there. Here we go. Lioness.
Yeah, we on the Renegade Culture podcast, man. Shout out to All In Music Group, Lioness. Yeah, help me see my potential. Help me dive first in the shit I'm into. Sentimental, so I pick up the pencil. Get it all out, put it on paper. Show the people what you made of. Don't sit around and just lay up. Talk about investments, life goals. The future, I'm the rider, you the shooter. Never let that come to you. The past and the peek through from time to time. Communicate well. Get back in line, so many losses, and we celebrate our wins away. Because of business, it is you I miss. Never been more certain, see it through a clear eye lens. Crazy, I fell in love with my best friend, I swear. You. Yeah. Lioness. You. Yeah. Renegade Culture Podcast, man. We here. We having fun with it. Yeah.
All right. Quick flashback real quick. Lioness, if you want to go check that out, go to the Renegade Culture playlist on Black Power Media and go find that artist and go check her out and check out some of the past broadcasts we did. That's what it is. Now let's take it back to the Remix Morning. All right.
She's nice. She's nice.
Yeah. I remember her.
Yeah, she came with it. Now, actually, that was her first time performing.
Perform ever?
That wasn't the one who was Minister Service cousin or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh, my bad.
My gosh.
It's
he kind of snuck on the show. He kind of
fire. She was fire, man.
No, but we got to talk about this a little bit since he's in the chat always talking trash. You know what I'm saying? He Minister Server. Like, he gets, sometimes he got musical guests for us. And then, it's supposed to be like, because he got the whole deep hip hop, whatever. Mm-hmm. And she was good, so don't get me wrong. Yeah. But then, he did the little, got the cousin on for him to perform before. I was like, what?
He's like, first time.
He's like,
oh boy.
She could have been nervous. She could have dropped the mic. Could have been like beads of sweat. Luckily, she was good, though. She was good.
Yeah. She was.
Yeah, she was nice.
Yeah, she was good. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's what it is. I'll catch y'all next break.
Sweet.
Peace. Okay.
Yeah, just because I like having fun. Just to let folks. I literally have like $57 in my Coinbase account.
Well, when you said something about investing 15, what is it, 30 or 40 a month? I left it alone. I was like, well, she's a small investor. She's a small investor.
I'm an incredibly small investor. I'm cheap as hell. I mean, I'm like, no, I don't like gambling. I don't like gambling. Yeah. And this is what, I understand that is what, a 401k is. It's gambling on the value of these stocks. And that's all fine and good. But I mean, look, if I don't like hoping that I'll get a return on my investments. So, I manage my expectations. So I go in real small. And if I'm not impressed by that, then it's like, yeah, I'm really not gonna pay too much attention.
I will say I know a couple of investors who do crypto and some other things who, they seem to they seem to be decent at what they do. But I agree with you. I've just never been, one, the market has always just been a foreign entity to me in terms of like, oh, I'm going to invest in it. Two, once I got really politicized, then it was sort of like, why would I put my money in there, which only helps advance some other people's stuff, which I think is used to oppress me. And so I've never been, it doesn't actually solve the issues of retirement funding and all the rest of it. And obviously we have some 401ks and all that kind of stuff. But, now obviously there's more low level risk investment in the rest of it. But there's always, so crypto and all that kind of stuff, are just foreign concepts. And so when I look at them as when people talk again about the whole get rich quick thing, or it's going to be the liberation of our people with the tools and or the investment, is just like, it sounds like snake oil to me. And I don't know, so I'm out of it. I'm out of it. B.
I mean, no, go ahead.
No, you go. No, you go.
Oh, Brewski has something to say to the cat in the woods. He has opinions.
Yes, yeah. And they're much like the ear doctor's opinions. If you just saying, it's hard to discern sometimes. That's all I'm saying. But let me jump in real quick. I want your opinion on this too. Before I know you may have to pop off a little sooner. So we were talking earlier about the lack of anything progressive coming out of Black-run cities who tend to fall in line with the needs of capital, and who tend to be scared to do anything that they think that is pro-Black that's going to get them in trouble. So instead, they do things like this. So the Atlanta police chief says, new way to catch criminals is a game changer. And basically, what is that new way? That new way is basically hooking up cameras, private cameras, all across the city to a centralized real-time sort of app that gets to analyze and track videos. So the police chief has said within a year, the APD will have access to 30,000 real-time cameras and share multiple video feeds to different parts of the city. So they're basically talking about a citywide tracking mechanism that will have you, once you step out in public, tracked by Big Brother, no matter where you go and what you do. And so if you think this is strictly about crime, you're crazy, right? This is about the very same things that this country accuses China in terms of human rights abuses and other places in terms of tracking their system. They do here, but here they have the help of a sophisticated media system to make you think this is for your benefit. And so the facial recognition technology, the tracking of citizens, again, this is also about tracking movements of people who engage in activities that they want to stop, right? So if you have a rally or demonstration and you haven't gotten a permit and they want to put something on you for not doing it, then tracking you as somebody who led a rally or demonstration or participated in it from the rally all the way back to your house is now that much more easy. Tracking you if you do civil disobedience and stop traffic is all that much more easy because they have these tracking mechanisms. And then the other last part about the story is that some of this, of course, is city cameras, but some of this is a volunteer effort. And so they're convincing you, the citizen, that hooking up your private camera, your door cam, and all the rest of it is going to be of the larger benefit of society if you only give the state access to, in this case, the city, but if you only give the government access to it to help stop quote unquote crime. So this is what our Black cities, not exclusively, of course, but our Black cities lead the way in terms of being cutting edge technology, not cutting edge technology to do anything about feeding the poor, providing resources to anybody and their support. But again, how do we track more people? How do we jail more people? How do we imprison more people? That's what we use our resources for.
Yep, we do a segment on By Any Means Necessary every Tuesday called Tech for the People with technologist Chris Garaffa, and we've been talking about the expansion of the surveillance state in the civilian surveillance state with the police through, ring cameras and the facial recognition technology that different police departments around the country are using, and how people are fighting back against those things. And in my own neighborhood, MPD, Metropolitan Police Department here in DC, they have a program where they will help you purchase a ring camera if you allow them to have access to the footage of your ring camera. And Mr. White Man Save a neighbor up the street. Oh, Jackie, before Abdus transition, oh, Jackie, you and Abdus really should get a ring camera. And Abdus was like, we ain't getting no damn ring camera. That's why we have windows on the second floor. People knock on the door, ring the doorbell. I come to the window. Who the hell is that? That's how we do. And then, of course, after Abdus transition, then it was like, oh, you really should get a ring camera for your safety. I'm like, no, we still got them windows up on the second floor. People knock on the door. I lean out the window. Who the hell is that? No, we don't. I don't need to surveil people in my neighborhood. I don't need the police to use my doorbell camera to surveil people in my neighborhood. And I was telling my neighbors, look, if you want to deter crime in the neighborhood, come the hell out of your house. Be a community. Show people that there are people in the neighborhood living out in the neighborhood, hanging out, talking to each other, so that element of folks are uncomfortable being in a place where they're more likely to be seen by a bunch of folks. But no, y'all bougie ass people want to stay in your house and not talk to people, and no. So this whole surveillance state thing, the police. And again, this is another, I think, class issue, Kamal, because, I live in a pretty, lower middle class neighborhood. A lot of people are retired city workers, retired government workers. But we live in the poorest, blackest ward of the city. So there's definitely those poor people that live down the street, or those people that live in the development, a couple of streets over. We have to be careful about those people. Y'all are like 2 social security checks away from those people. What are you talking about? The only reason you're not those people is because you got retirement from your government job. So how are we are so quick. Some of us are so quick to fall in with the authoritative state, with the police state, to police our own people, to allegedly protect ourselves against the other, when we're not even realizing that the police state is using us
exactly
to police ourselves. That's what they're doing, because they will drag us all in. They'll drag every single one of us in when it hits the fan. So this is
the media and the state have created the us versus them, but it's not us versus the capitalist state. It's not us versus the corporations. The us and them is, like you said, is that class divide of them who are poor and they want my stuff, whatever, that I worked hard for. We've too many of our folks have bought into that narrative. Obviously, white folks have always bought into that narrative, particularly around race issues. But we're buying into that narrative. And again, our own so-called electoral leaders push that narrative. Obviously, the media, the news media pushes that narrative. Corporations push that narrative. The police push that narrative. And we are far more pro-police than other communities. I mean, there's this thing that's happening in one of the neighborhoods we work in that's not unique to the neighborhood, but it's coming up, where the city again is doing the workforce housing, and they're moving police into the neighborhood, like gentrifying neighborhoods. So they're helping to give folks discounts on their mortgages and their down payments and all that kind of stuff, so they can move more police into the neighborhood to monitor the neighborhood as it's gentrifying. So that tied with the other surveillance So this is what you call making a neighborhood better. Again, it's not like you have some resources you're giving or putting out to bring up people's economic levels. That's not what you're doing. You're not taxing corporations so that you can create housing for everyday people. That's not what you're doing. You're actually spending precious resources on getting more cops in the neighborhood because, again, the narrative that the police are the solution to all problems is what you depend upon for your own safety. And that's what's happening all around.
Exactly. I mean, and look, I get that we do deal with issues of crime in some of our neighborhoods. Again, surveillance is not the answer to crime. Because if surveillance were the answer to crime, then the way we're surveilled in our neighborhoods, there'd be no damn crime. But I have never seen all these cops, these occupying forces on every corner of my neighborhood. And I'm just talking about what I know, what I live every day. When somebody is shot in my neighborhood, somehow every shooter managed to escape down Southern Avenue, down to Suitland Parkway. All these damn cops don't ever manage to catch these people. All this surveillance, all these occupying forces, all these ring cameras, they don't stop crime. It really is exactly as we're saying, Kamal, a way for the police to push back against the movement to defund police departments. That's another part of this thing. This is a response to the movement in the streets, as somewhat misguided as the conversation may have been among some folks. The demand to defund police departments because police departments get a ridiculous amount of money for not really stopping crime. The police do not stop crime. That's not their function. They respond to issues. They don't stop crime. Things that stop crime are like taking money from the police and giving it to poor people to meet their needs. Get housing, what we talked about earlier with the story out of New Orleans. What stops crime is giving people a quality of life where they don't feel like they have to commit crime to eat and feed and clothe themselves. That's what stops crime. The police don't exist to stop crime. And so, yeah, we do need to protect ourselves, but I will not buy into the surveillance state and help them surveil me and end up catching a bunch of innocent people in the dragnet, because we all know that facial recognition technology is racist because the people who designed the algorithms have racial bias. Come on now.
And so one more last thing on that point, that I think you might have to duck out.
Yeah, I do have to. I got to dip.
But before you do, and so on this very, 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 same thing is instead, this is what happens to the poor. This is the city state's policies. So in California, trying to disappear the poor, California clears homeless camp near Super Bowl. So as what's happened all across the country, anytime there are major sporting events, I just wanted to share that headline for us to talk about. Anytime there's major sporting events happening and otherwise, the city takes on the city and the state, the actual state takes on the guise of, what do we need to do for all these tourists coming into town? We need to scrub away poor people. So whether it's homeless encampments in Atlanta, again, Atlanta was famous for all of its public housing being torn down in wake of the Olympics and shortly thereafter, again, as a way to hide the poor. They're now putting these big boulders under highways. Imagine the amount of money they're spending to move rocks onto highways to stop homeless encampments, as opposed to building actual housing for folks, which has been shown, again, is like, in another one of these needed studies before they actually implement things, that actually housing for people who are houseless works better to stabilize them with wraparound services than creating shelters or moving them from place to place to place, or in some cases, paying them money to leave town and letting them become somebody else's problem.
Right. I mean, and look, as far as, protecting our community is concerned, because, it blows my mind how people are, people say, well, what about the elderly? I don't understand why we are not checking in on our elderly neighbors in the first place. Why are we not building a community around our vulnerable citizens. This is crazy to expect the police to protect our elderly family members, and we ain't doing it. And then we get mad. I mean, my grandmother insisted on living in her house in rural Virginia until she just couldn't anymore. But we made sure that she was never there by herself. Somebody was always there with my grandma. We would take that 2.5-hour drive and go hang out with her for the weekend, and we'd take turns, make sure she was there. Look, that people don't have to be related to you to be family. Either we're going to build community to protect ourselves and each other, or we're not, and we're going to let the state do it. And we've seen what the state does. So if you don't want the state to do it and lock up a bunch of people and just look, we have to take care of each other and ourselves. There are no two ways about it. You can have a Ring camera if you want to, cool. But I just feel like depending on the state to protect us is a weird flex. That's just a weird flex to me. I would rather adopt a couple of old people.
No, and as you said, it's like they come in to solve. They're not coming to prevent crime. They taking reports.
Yeah, I mean, reports.
Oh, how many times? How many reports have they taken and you gotten your stuff back? Right? I mean,
one funny story, real quick before I go. So ever since Abdus has passed, I'm in here by myself, and sometimes I really do not come out of this house. That is not healthy, but sometimes I honestly do not. So last week during the snow, the trash, they picked up the trash. The trash cans were still in the driveway because I had not gone outside for a week to move them. I did not. So one of my neighbors saw that I had not, my trash cans had not moved. The car hadn't moved. She hadn't seen me. She called me. And she asked me, "Are you all right? I'm just calling on you to check on you because I saw that your trash cans have been in front of your car in your driveway for a week. You haven't come out. Are you okay? Do you need me to come over? Do you need anything?" That's how we protect each other. That's how we look out for each other. If I don't see my neighbor up the street who is in a wheelchair, if I have not seen him come out to feed the birds in a couple of days, I go up there, knock on the door, see if he's all right. That is how we protect each other. We cannot. The state is not going to do that. Yeah. The state will not do that.
And as we said before, the most well-resourced communities are not the most over-policed communities, right? The most well-resourced communities, you don't see the amount of police cars driving by, stopping people, hemming people up, right? Because they have resources. Yep. So the same would hold true that if there's a community that doesn't have resources, the answer is not flooding them with police. Why don't we flood people with resources? But of course, we know that's only going to happen when we have a revolutionary movement, to be honest, that makes that happen, because people are well settled into doing what they do, and they do it, and they know what they're doing, and they do it for a particular reason.
That's right. So, okay, I really got to go.
You got to go.
I do, because I get paid to do something else. Y'all don't pay me.
To the show, you holding that spot for me? For sure.
I'm not. We're not talking about that no more.
No?
You're not.
Listen, wait a minute.
Those contract negotiations. Nope. Those contract negotiations are non-starters. Nope. Nope.
Hey, if you want your ratings to go down, Jackie, pick them up.
Y'all are terrible. Peace. I'll see y'all later.
Later. All right. So another show. It's about time. I would usually do a break right about now, but what I want to do, Kamal, is I want to do a quick 5-minute mix, and I want somebody or some people in the chat room to ask a question that we could possibly, come back and answer. If it's a topic, question, whatever, you pick it, Kamal, while I do a little mix. That's cool?
All right, that's cool. That's cool.
Right, let's get it.
Change for me. Change for me. In your eyes, I see question. After everything, after everything, baby. shy. Let's pretend that you and I have known each other for quite some time. But now I wanna hurt everything.
You listening to the Ear Doctor, okay?
Follow me, 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 yeah, follow me. I'm hoping to see the day when my people can all relate. We must stop
My love, what did I do to make you fall so far from me? And now I can't recall because of the false selective memory. Then you built a wall, a 20-foot wall, so I couldn't see.
We almost there. Let's rock out, y'all. Come on.
Little ghetto boy playing in the ghetto street. What you gonna do when you grow up and have to face responsibility?
And that's what it is. That's what it is. Yeah. All right.
Oh man, I felt bad about killing the vibe.
Hey, we rock out for a quick second, get y'all motivated for this weekend coming up. We find any good topics or questions in the chat room?
Well, one person did have a question specifically related to you.
Uh-oh.
And they were it was a good one. They were asking about how did you learn the art of mixing and what does it take to master it?
Oh, okay. All right. So I was around a bunch of DJs in college. One of my best friends was a DJ. And for a while, I just sit back and look, watch, listen. And then after a while, it was like, yo, let's start doing start doing weddings and stuff like that. So I started DJing weddings and I started really like taking my time, and my friends, two of my DJ friends showed me, my homeboy SP and my homeboy Battle, and they showed me how to do some mixing. And then after a while, I just got into it. I learned how to do the counting technique, learning different techniques and listening to music, knowing when the song is going to go this direction, the energy and all that stuff. So it's really sitting down and studying music and knowing how the people react when you play certain jams. So that's what it is.
So you started though in the wax era, right? And then you moved.
I started doing the wax era.
Do you miss? I mean, I don't know if you still use records or you use a little combination of whatever. Do you miss wax?
Not at all. Not at all. Not carrying them big heavy ass crates. No, I don't. And I mean, really, it's so much more music you can play now that it's on computers and in the laptop. Before you was limited to how many crates you bought in. So now,
okay. So you're not a purist on that one. You're not like us. We got to take it back.
Listen. My whole thing, even with a lot of these DJs, is can you do your job right? Can you make the people dance, stay on the dance floor, transition sound good, and keep the energy right? I don't care if you can do your I can scratch, juggle, and all that stuff, but my thing is getting the party
hopping. True that.
Yeah,
True.
I'm a party DJ, so that's why I like my specialties is like weddings, corporate events, but anything. My thing is I'm gonna get you on the floor and have you dancing. So
all right. So that's basically our week, son.
That's it.
We did
it.
We did it.
Out of here.
You know what I'm saying?
What you got planned this weekend?
It's kids, man. I ain't got nothing planned. It's kids. Kids and revolution.
Word.
You know what I'm saying? That's all I do.
Well, you know, one of our homegirls we had on the show, Yakini, she's opening another business right next to a hair salon, which is called Yup. And she's going to have it as a spot for people to come and do pop-up shops, stuff communities trying to do, have a little space for them to do stuff. So I'm going to be DJing that on Sunday from noon to 9 p.m. So I might not make it on Sundays, but that's what it is.
Oh, cool. So we want to thank everybody for coming out. You know, we got our Mix With Our Light coming on tomorrow, 8 o'clock. Right, my man Jazz is going to be there. I think we got we got the Brokish folks, like they up in the chat. And they dropped another show. They're gonna be dropping some more stuff soon.
Nice.
We got Warrior Class this weekend. We're gonna be coming back next week Tuesday, right? Next week Tuesday with more remix. You know what I'm saying? We miss Kim Brown, so hopefully she'll be back next week. I think she was a little under the weather, so hopefully she'll be back. And all your favorites and all your crew. And as always, we got some stuff in there for you. Oh, and we're gonna start announcing our Patreons more, so folks can get the due credit that they deserve. And I believe that we just dropped some more exclusive members only.
That's right.
Patreon stuff. Dr. Jared Ball dropped some new stuff. So y'all go check that out for the after party. Y'all go check that out. I think this is the 27th. By the time we talk again, credit cards would have gone through the system. And so, you know, I'm here with you.
Word. Yo, so that's it. Yo, I might as well go ahead and take us out of the mix. We got 2 minutes left, so let's rock out. Everybody have a great weekend. Let's go.
Peace.
House music.
Gotta have house music all night long. With that house music, you can't go wrong. Give me that house music, set me free. Lost in house music is where I want to be.
Here we go. Let's go.
Can we live like the stars?
We out.